let's go straight into the video. Sanderstead versus South London Royals. This is the amateur football YouTube channel talking about grassroots, non-league football, Saturday football, Sunday football. This is just my review. If you haven't seen these types of videos before, I'm going to break this down into 4 criteria: organization, defense, midfield, forwards or attack. I will also talk about key players within that game. I will also talk about their strengths and certain things that they can improve. Organization. See, this is a hard one to pick because both teams were really organized from start to finish. If I had to be pushed, I would probably say South London Royals. Probably the reason why I say South London Royals, they didn't really change a lot. I'd say a couple of subs came on, but they didn't lose their shape. I think with Sanderstead, in the first half, very, very well organized. To be fair, Sanderstead made 9 changes. And to make 9 changes in a friendly, certain things may look slightly disjointed. Defense, I will give it to Sanderstead. Sanderstead looked very assured, very composed. They've got a player, I believe his name is Callum, number 19, and that played about 60-70 minutes. Very comfortable on the ball, strong in the tackle. He was dominant in the air. What a lot of teams are looking for are centre backs that can play with their feet, and he's definitely that player. Billy played really well, tons of communication, and he can also play as well. I think it's all about confidence and knowing that you've got someone next to you that can play that game and also has the mobility to get on the pitch. That definitely complements Billy's game. South London Royals played okay. The captain that played centre back, he was very dominant. The right back, I believe his name was Paul, again very, very mobile, very committed. But I would definitely say there were patterns of play where it was more desperate defending rather than actually being in control. I don't think, off the top of my head, I can remember a passage of play where the centre backs and the full backs actually had the ball at their feet and literally passed it amongst themselves. It was kind of more down the line or just clearing the ball. And the defence really did get worked. So that's one thing that I would definitely say to the Royals. Just don't panic. Sometimes, you do have time on the ball, and sometimes when you clear it, you think you can get a bit of respite. But sometimes when the ball's up in the air, you might get a couple of seconds or a few seconds, and then all of a sudden you are back on defensive mode. And sometimes you just have to relax a little bit. And of course, it takes time, but I think it'll come. Midfield, I'll give it to Sanderstead. First half, I believe, number 6, number 21, I think one of them is called Joe. But yeah, number 6 and 21 actually controlled the midfield. They won the first balls pretty well, pretty easy. And they were just really kind of controlling the midfield. Nothing really got through them. And I'd say a lot of the best passages of play came from those two. Both of them can do the box-to-box job. Both of them can do the defensive midfield sweeping up. So it'd be very interesting to see if those two are around for the season, because if they are, then Sanderstead will be pretty strong. For South London Royals, didn't really see too much. They had a very tricky wing. I think he was number 7 on the left side. Could have done a little bit more, but to be fair, There was a lot of high balls from the Royals, so it was probably hard for them to actually get to grips with the high ball game. They did have a few good passages of play, but it was few and far between. But again, they battled well. They didn't really allow Sanderstead too much time, but they did get out-muscled and out-battled majority of the game. I think one of the midfielders have to be brave and drop into a more defensive midfield role and collect the ball from the centre-backs and try and play from there. Because again, if it's going over your head, again, it's really impossible to impose your ability onto any teams. So I would just again encourage midfielders to actually demand the ball from either the fullback or centre back and try and dictate play. And even if you get caught out, it's the fact that you're trying. It's pre-season, so why not try? Why not try different patterns of play? Forward line attacks. I've got to give it to Sanderstead. Very, very clinical with their goals, quality finishes, quality players, and we're talking about goals. And we're not talking about tap-ins. We are talking about bottom corner, top left, half volley as well. We're talking really, really good goals. We're not just, these players have the ability to, again, cut you open if you're not on your mettle. And again, in the final third, it just showed why Sanderstead are in the Prem. I think with the Royals, they had the number 11, a very willing runner, running into the channels. But really, they have to probably support him a lot more. There were times where he was isolated and, against 2 or 3 defenders, he would have to work miracles every single time. You have players in your team, and sometimes that will dictate the formation that you play. With the Royals, with that number 11, I don't see him as a lone striker type of guy. I would like to see someone partner up with him. He kind of reminds me of a Defoe. Goes into the channels. He does have an eye for goal, but sometimes gets isolated. And you can tell he got slightly frustrated as well, because again, the ball was up in the air, say 60-70% of the time when the Royals had it. But if you don't respect him, and if you don't respect what the Royals can do, they can also punish you. But let's talk about key players. Key players for South London Royals. I've mentioned number 11. Definitely gave Sanderstead problems, more so in the second half. Paul, I've got to give a shout out to Paul, that was playing right back. Again, he never gave up, and again, very, very strong in the tackle, very, very hard to beat. And again, with a fullback's job, if you get beat on the ball, okay, you know what, that's cool. But it's the fact that Paul kept on coming back, and he never gave up. Also, number 7 played okay, more so in the second half. Again, I would kind of like to see him more on the ball. He does have the quality. He just has to, I won't say believe in his own ability, but just be a little bit more confident when he does have the ball. Because I saw a few touches. I saw the runs that he was making. Just keep doing those type of runs, and people will find you. I think for Sanderstead, I would say number 6 and number 21 that played in midfield. I'd say number 11 that came on at left back in the second half. Just, one of the best left backs I've seen. And again, I don't say that lightly. Very attacking minded, but also can defend. And that's a nightmare for any right back or right midfielder, because okay, if I'm going to attack him, I know 9 times out of 10 he'll either win that ball and then attack me with absolute ferociousness, and also can deliver a hell of a ball. Also, I was really impressed with the number 5 that came on in the second half, the midfielder. Very noisy, and literally when I say very noisy, everything that he was doing, it was with a purpose. It was with vigor. So when he was running, he was making a noise. When he was tackling as well, you knew that he was there. Again, a very commanding figure. He wanted the ball. He wanted to start something. He's a player that I can see as a possible future captain. Again, just very very composed, and very I won't call it dominating, but his presence was felt. Let's talk about strengths and areas that can be improved. So with South London Royals, I'd say their strengths is their determination, their togetherness, and their fitness. At one stage of the game, it was 2-0 for say maybe 60 minutes or so, 60-70 minutes, possibly longer. And South London Royals, again, this team is a Division 2 team in the Croydon League. They just didn't give up. They just kept on going, kept on plugging away. The communication was really, really good as well. And at 2-2, I could only see one winner, and that was the Royals. They will cause a lot of teams problems, purely on the fact that they don't give up. And they will wear down teams. Areas that they can improve, I'd say I would possibly like to see different variations of play. I would kind of like to see their fullbacks possibly join the attack a lot more. Again, that will kind of create more overlaps and more variations in play. I would kind of like their midfield to be a little bit more vocal and to try and dominate a lot more. And again, it all depends on the opposition that you're playing. Sanderstead, I think one of the strengths is that everyone knows their role and everyone knows their position. Their attacking options are absolutely scary. I think they will score a lot of goals. The starting 11, again, I don't know if the starting 11 in the first half was the strongest, but I think now there's a squad and there's not going to be any passengers now. You've got to be on your mettle every single game, because if you're not, then someone is there to actually take your place. I'd say things that they've got to improve on. I'd say concentration. I think South London Royals scored 2 goals within 5 minutes, and it shows just a little bit of lack of concentration. Again, as I said before, at 2-2, I could only see one winner. I think the quality did shine through, but that could have easily been a loss if they didn't buck up their ideas. Communication was okay. Could have been a little bit better. I think there's one thing that I'd like to see more, and they do have them in abundance. They have leaders on the pitch, but it's all right to be a leader when everything's good. But when you're losing, when you're drawing, or when a game is tough, I want to see the leaders then. I want them to be vocal and to be constructive with their communication. They have to be, because again, there's going to be teams this season that are going to give them problems. And rather than bickering and shouting, be constructive. Be an influence on your team. You know, it's going to be a big season for Sanderstead. I know some of the Sanderstead guys. I know the management as well. And again, I'll be absolutely honest with the kind of management structure. They have to be a lot more stronger. They've got to be more, not like forceful, but again, what I witnessed at halftime, that there was a lot of people talking. And when a lot of people are talking, no one's really listening. I know as a player, if like three like people are talking, and I'm looking at the manager, and the manager's not like saying anything, I'm like, well, who's actually managing this team? Is it you? Is it the players? And of course, I'm not saying that the players do not have an opinion, like they do. As I keep saying, the halftime team talk is the most important time of the game. And in my opinion, the manager, the captain, and possibly the vice captain, the halftime team talk, they have to dominate those 10 minutes. It's not the players, it's those three people. And again, there will be time for players to chime in and to say whatever they want to say, but the management have to be stronger in controlling that halftime team talk. The captain and the vice captain have to be strong enough to hold that team, because again, Sanderstead can actually play football, and there's a lot of players there that have played at a decent standard as well. You can tell that most of those players have played at a high standard, but that doesn't mean that you talk over the manager, that you talk over the captain or the vice captain. That halftime team talk is vital to iron anything out. Do I think that they will win the Croydon League? At this present moment in time, I wouldn't put Sanderstead down as the favourites, but I'd say they are in the mix. So please tell me what you think about this video. Comments below. See you guys soon.